views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
This is Patty Hunter. Welcome to my TV show called Patty's Page. Today, my special guest is Robyn Chambers, and she is the Executive Director of Advocacy for Children at Focus on the Family. Oh,
Thank you, Patty, for having me on.
you're welcome. Where were you born and raised?
Well, my dad was actually active duty Air Force, so I was born in Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. But when I was 2, we moved back to southern Missouri, and I grew up near Branson, Missouri, probably the majority of my life until I got married.
Oh, you're married with kids, eh?
I am. I've been married for 42 years. I have 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren who are the love of my life. And Patty, I often joke and say my favorite title is Grammy. I love those 3 little ones. I say little ones. They're all teenagers right now, but they are just a joy.
You don't look like you're that old, girlfriend.
It's called really good hair color.
Oh, yes. I'm well preserved for mine. Well, as you were growing up, who had mentored you?
I really have to say my mom and my grandmother, my mom's mom, they were 2 very, very just godly women, but in a way that was really kind of quietly. They weren't, loudspeakers, and they didn't lead in church, but it was just the things they did every single day. My mom was the one that led our family devotionals every night. And my grandmother had just an amazing gift of hospitality. She knew if there was someone in the community that was sick or someone had a new baby. And I can remember her waking me up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Most kids are like, let me sleep in. She would wake me up, and we would make a basket of goodies and take it to the family and just drop it off. And she would just write a little note and just tell that family that we were praying for them, whether it was a death in the family or a birth, or like I said, a sickness. And I really learned how to serve others by watching my mom and my grandmother.
That is great. I mean, you're a Christian as well,
Yes.
Okay. You are now working for Focus on the Family. We just discussed that. What is its mission?
Focus on the Family was launched more than 40 years ago by Dr. James Dobson, and it really was his, the call in his life was to strengthen families. He was starting to see, even in the early 70s, that families were being attacked, families were being torn apart by different things. And so his heart and his mission was to strengthen families. And we do that we still continue that. We still continue that today with our president, Jim Daly. And we do that through radio broadcasts and really helping families understand how to be a really solid parent, or, how to have a solid marriage, how to make really good decisions. And so through our broadcasts and our resources, our goal is to obviously introduce people to Christ, but then to strengthen their families.
You have people who are counselors in your group.
Yes, we have an entire team of counselors, and Patty, we take that very serious. People call us with heartbreaking prayer requests, things that their families are going through, and they're reaching out for help. And so we take those prayer requests very confidentially. We pray over those as a team, and then our counseling department will connect those folks. If they desire, they'll connect them with a counselor in their area to kind of continue that that recovery or that path to healing.
That's like therapy in a way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What led you to work with them in the first place? What led you?
My husband and I were actually in South Florida. My husband was retired Air Force, and we were in Homestead Air Force Base when Hurricane Andrew hit in 1992.
Mm.
That destroyed the base, and my husband and our two children and I were then sent here to Colorado Springs, working at the Air Force Academy. And I had just really learned that Focus had moved to Colorado Springs. And I remember, pardon me, my mother-in-law had given me a book by Dr. Dobson years ago called The Strong-Willed Child, specifically for my daughter, who was definitely a strong-willed child.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with the broadcast and fell in love with the resources, and they were so helpful. And, teaching, just really solid biblical truth. And so I reached out, and they were hiring at that time temporary help for the Christmas season, and rediscovered a friend that we had been stationed with at another Air Force base,
Mhm.
and she was working here. And so she and I decided to work together in our Family Help Center, which is the call center. That was 28 years ago
Wow.
that I started working at Focus.
So, you've been working with them for how long now? 25?
28 years.
28 years, girlfriend.
So I laugh and I say that was the longest temp assignment, but Lord really kept me here for a real specific purpose. And at the time when I started, I didn't know what that purpose was. And I now know it was to be right where I am, serving in advocacy for children. And that is absolutely my passion and my call that the Lord has laid on my life. And so there was a reason that I started here that many years ago, and I've loved every minute.
You did help with the Family Help Center.
That was our call center. That's where people would call and request magazines or books or whatever, we were promoting on the broadcast that day.
Mhm.
So I got the joy of listening to people call in and tell us why Focus on the Family meant so much to them. And so I actually challenge all of our new employees I said, go over and listen on the phones for an hour. You will meet some of them, just the most amazing people who call the ministry. People who really have connected with Focus through years and years, through the broadcast, through our resources, but then have become donors and constituents, and they are amazing, amazing people. So that was just a really neat time for me to start at Focus.
James Dobson, is he still around or?
No, Doctor actually retired from Focus about 11 years ago. So our new president is Jim Daly. Jim is just probably one of my favorite people. I work directly with Jim. And when I worked in our international department, Jim has a heart for international families. And he often says those families face the exact same things that we do here in the United States. And so if we can get our resources into the hands of others, that was his goal. So he took over as president a few years ago and is leading the ministry well. And it's just grown under his leadership. It's been really amazing to watch the growth through the ministry.
So you have done legal work as well?
Mm-hmm. When I was in our international department, I worked with the team that I wrote all the contracts for our foreign publications, which was so amazing to see Dr. Dobson's books and some of our resources at Focus translated into many, many different languages. And it was very, very fulfilling at the time. I loved looking at I don't read all those languages, but I love looking at the different titles and knowing that really solid biblical truth was being sent across the globe. And it was just a really neat thing to be a part of that.
You didn't go touring anywhere. You just stayed where you're at right now.
I did not have the joy of traveling. We had several teams that did those trips around the globe. We actually have several associate offices, focused on the family associate offices in different countries. And we had a team that would go over and visit those folks. So, but now I stayed right here in Colorado and continued to work on those foreign publications.
Do you have one in Canada?
Yes, we do. Focus on the Family Canada is probably the longest standing associate office. It's been around for many, many years. They do a great work.
So whereabouts in Canada? I'm from there,
And
Toronto.
Vancouver.
Vancouver?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, my aunt used to live there many moons ago. So let's talk about the option ultrasound program. What is that all about?
Yeah, 17 years ago, and it seems unreal that it's been that many years, someone asked the question, what could Focus on the Family do to help really decrease the number of abortions in the United States? Dr. Dobson had asked that question, and my former vice president was in the room, and she said it was so clear. The Lord was just very, very clear in his answer and said, it's ultrasound. You know, it is impossible to argue that that's not a baby. When you see, you know, a baby's nose or the outline of a face and fingers and toes on that ultrasound. And she said, it's ultrasound. We've got to get ultrasound into pregnancy centers across the United States. So that's what started with Option Ultrasound 17 years ago. And we partner with pregnancy centers across the United States to get ultrasound machines or training grants for nurses to be able to run those machines, and many other grants that help them reach the abortion-minded women in their community and really help educate those young women. We feel like that is empowerment. Education is empowerment, letting those young women know that that is a child in their womb, not a clump of tissue, not a clump of cells, that is a baby. And so we have been just amazed at the number of pregnancy centers that have taken that big step and started offering ultrasound at their pregnancy centers. And I have been just so blessed to be a part of that from the very beginning. I was with the program from the very beginning 17 years ago.
I'm proud of you, girl. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. How do you reach out to the community to offer these ultrasound sonograph?
Mm-hmm. Do you mean specifically to the women?
Yes.
That is one of the newest things that we've been doing. We actually launched something called the My Choice Network, and that is online, everything online, because we said these young women have always had a cell phone. We have an entire generation of young women who've never not had the internet or a computer or a phone right in their hands. And so we do a lot of digital client marketing. Those are ads that we do, ad campaigns that we do, to let them know that there are people in their communities ready and willing to help them. And it's not Planned Parenthood. We want them to know that there's other choices besides abortion. And so we do all the ads that we can. That's where these young women live. They're scrolling through their phones at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so we do ad campaigns, and it drives them to the pregnancy center closest to them so that they can get that help.
Flyers and business cards or whatever to, like, you hold events to get the people's attention in their communities. What do you do?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we want. We really are trying to start talking about the truth about life. We want these young women to know that there's more choices than just abortion. You know, I often say it's interesting to me that the abortion industry uses the word choice. They're not offering a choice, Patty. There's one option, and it's abortion. And so we're like, the choice really is a pro-life term. And I want to reclaim that word to say you can choose life. That is the better choice, and let us tell you why. And so that's one of the things that we do with Focus on the Family. And one of the things that I brought down with me, and I'll hold up, these little booklets that we do for pregnancy centers across the United States. Every pregnancy center can get $500 of free resources. And these booklets, there's 11 different booklets, all talk about the truth about life and all of your choices, not just that one choice. And so we know that that is important, is that education in giving that young woman all of the information that she deserves to make the better choice. And you know what, Patty, that could mean a woman who makes an adoption plan and places that child with a wonderful couple. Those are brave, selfless, amazing young women. And I think we need to do a better job of really respecting those young women and the choices that they make, and letting them know that is a choice. That is a wise choice if they don't feel like they can be a mom at that time.
Okay.
There's lots and lots of resources for those young women at those pregnancy centers. So we just feel so compelled at Focus on the Family to educate that young woman and let her know that there's better options than Planned Parenthood.
I wonder how many cities have pregnancy centers.
We are actually in every single state in the United States. We have pregnancy centers across the globe. There's about 2,500, anywhere between 25 and 2,600, because we're always adding new ones. Across the United States, there's more than 2,500 pregnancy centers in all the major cities. And those men and women on the front lines truly are my heroes. They are the ones that are doing the work day in and day out in reaching those young women, and sometimes their partners. The young men will come in as well. And that is something that we want to recognize, is that young man can be ministered to as well at those pregnancy centers, and he can learn how to be a good dad. There's lots of fatherhood programs at these pregnancy centers, lots of resources that's not just about the baby's birth, but it's long-term. How can they be really good parents? And these pregnancy centers do it all.
Is there one in Indianapolis? Or?
Yes, there is.
Okay, I just was wondering if you have anyone here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It would be good if we could get one of you guys.
We actually just did a new machine for the center in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Which one, a Hope Center?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I used to work for them. Volunteer.
Yep, great group. Yep, we just did a brand new machine for them.
Cool. Let's talk about Wait No More. What is that?
That's my other favorite hat that I wear. That is part of our foster care and adoption program at Focus on the Family. We know that there are currently over 400,000 children in foster care. Children who, through no fault of their own, have ended up in foster care because the parents possibly were not safe at the time. And out of those 400,000, over 100,000 of those children are legal orphans right here in the United States. So basically what that means is there's been some sort of intervention. The state has stepped in. Maybe someone at the school noticed things weren't a safe environment for that child. So the child's been removed, but for whatever reason, parental rights have been terminated. And let me be super clear. It is always our hope and always our prayer that those families are reunited. We want mom and dad to be together. We want mom and dad to have those kiddos in their home. Reunification is always the goal, but when that's not available for that child becomes a legal orphan. And that means that that child can be adopted. And so our goal through our Wait No More events is we work with churches across the United States to build awareness of the children in that community. So that big number, the 100,000, that's kind of a number that's hard to get your mind wrapped around. So we talk to churches and child placement agencies, government agencies, and we talk about the children in just that community. That makes it seem a little more tangible, and I think a little more achievable when you start talking about smaller numbers in a specific community. I'll take one for instance. We will be in Kentucky next week, Asheville, Kentucky, and Frankfort, Kentucky, talking about the children in those two communities that are available for adoption. And we talk with churches and we talk through what that means to become a foster parent, what it means to adopt from foster care, or maybe if God's not calling you to do that, how can you support the family that is adopting that child? What can the church do long-term to really support that family? So that's our goal, is that children wait no more for a forever family, and we get them out of foster care and into permanent family situations.
You deal with orphanages as well, or just?
Well, we don't have orphanages in the United States. They're called group homes now. And so we do work with those. Again, we always go into a community where we've been invited, usually by a child placement agency or by a government agency. And we work very closely with them to identify the children that are available for adoption.
Wow, that's cool. It's a lot of kids that are in foster homes. Do you screen these homes?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, Focus doesn't. The child placement agencies or the government agency actually does screen all of those families.
in case there was a abusive foster family. They had to be properly screened and everything like that. So they put them in a safe environment. And the people who are adopting have to be screened as well.
Yes, and that's why we work with government agencies and child placement agencies. We want to make sure that those families go through the necessary training. They have been, like you said, screened. They've done their work study, their home studies, and gone through all of the necessary steps to become that foster family or that adoptive family. So we are very careful in who we work with.
So do you know how many are legally adopted in the whole United States? Or you have to have
Well, through our program, we know that more than 5,000 families have actually started the process to become an adoptive family. And so we've only been around for a few years, and we are just beginning to, with COVID, everything shut down for a year. So we haven't been able to do any events for a year. So the 2 events next week will be our first one since COVID hit a year ago. And so we are constantly working with different cities, different states, to come in and start working with people who are on the ground. Because one of the things that we love to do is partner with like community champions, people who will do the work long after Focus on the Family is there. So we can come in, we can raise awareness, and then we hand it off to our partner that's on the ground to continue that work. And so we know that there are hundreds of children that will be placed in forever families through just the work that we're doing with our Wait No More events and our on the ground partners. Those are amazing, amazing people.
You're doing excellent work, my friend.
Thank you. We are working in Kentucky this month, and then next month we'll go to Florida, and then we'll go back to Florida in the summertime, and then we're moving on to Alabama in the fall. So we are constantly on the move and working in different cities and different states as the need comes up. Lots of work to be done.
Come to Fort Wayne, girlfriend.
Well, you can invite us anytime.
Do you work with inner city families? Or
We do. Yeah, a lot of, we've actually gone into several inner city communities. We were in Tampa, Kansas City, different places like that. And again, working with amazing, amazing child placement agencies, and they call us to say, here's our need. Can you come help us get the word out? And that is where I love the fact that Focus on the Family waits to be invited. We want that community to recognize that there's a job to be done, that there's work to be done, and we get the joy of coming alongside and serving them and really kind of equipping them on how to reach more of those families. So we're always looking for more communities to reach into.
So these 2 events next week, what dates are those 2?
I want to say April 20th and 22nd. We call those leader events. And so what we do, we actually go into community and we work with pastors, community leaders, government leaders, and we talk to them about what we can do about the actual big event that we do. And then we ask for them to help promote that event. And we provide all the marketing materials, all the promotional materials for them to talk to people in that community. And then we'll be back in Kentucky in August to do 2 actual Wait No More events at 2 separate churches in those cities. And so that's kind of our normal process, is to go in and work with leaders first, let them do the promotion, and then we go in and actually do the event. Dr. Sharon Ford, our director for that program, has 30 years of experience at the government level. And she goes in and she talks through everything that you need to know about starting that process. Sharon is a wealth of information, and she does a great job of kind of helping to answer some really tough questions about what it means to be a foster family, what it means to adopt from foster care. And then we kind of step out of that. We introduce them to our on the ground partners and let the family start asking questions and begin that process and go from there. And so it's just a great partnership that we have with the folks that we work with and on the ground.
Do you go to, when you're invited, of course, to events, large events, entertainment, whatever, have a table with your info and all that?
Yes, we do. We always have an information table there. And we have other folks from the community that come in with an information table. so that families know that there's resources for them once they begin this process.
What do you see in the future for focus on the family and our kids?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
What do you see in the future, for the future, focus on the family?
One of the things that is brand new that I'm very excited about, and I know this sounds maybe boring to some folks, but we are actually going to start doing those leader events digitally. You know, COVID, one of the things COVID taught us was really looking at ways to get the message out if we can't be in person. And so we are going to start doing those in a virtual format so that we can go into every city that reaches out to us and not have to wait. Say that there's another surge with COVID. I pray that there isn't, but if there's another surge and we can't travel, how can we still get the message out? That message is very, very important. You know, the families are desperate for help, and the children desperately need a forever family. And so we are actually going to start doing this in a digital format. Sharon Ford is still going to engage one-on-one with folks. But that is one of the things that we have never done before through the foster care and adoption initiative, is to be able to do this in a virtual format. And I think we're going to be able to reach more people in that way than ever before. So that is exciting to me. And then for Option Ultrasound, the My Choice Network that I mentioned earlier, we are hoping and praying that we can take that nationally. That would be a database of all the pregnancy centers in the United States, where a young woman can search by her zip code and find a pregnancy center closest to her that can really talk her through those choices.
Yes, I agree. I do so agree.
Yeah, so that's our goal. That's a big, big goal, and we would love to have prayer for that, and just the Lord's leading as we are doing those things.
And if anyone wants to donate, what is your website?
Just focusonthefamily.com. And there's a donate button right on the pro-life page. And that will allow us to continue our ministry, Patty, in working with families who are wanting to adopt from foster care and working with pregnancy centers to help women choose life every single day.
You betcha. What would you like to say to my audience? Finally, this half hour is almost over, my dear.
Oh, you're right, it is. It was wonderful talking with you.
I know.
I would like to say thank you. We cannot do what we do without people like you, Patty, and people like your listeners who pray for us every day, who stand in the gap, and who get involved every single day in this fight for life. So thank you.
You're welcome, Bill. And thank you for coming on to my show, kiddo.
You're welcome anytime.
I'd love to have you back on my show. There's so much we can talk about, you know.
I would love that. So anytime, Patty, and thanks so much for having me on.
This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Thank you, Robyn Chambers, for Focus on the Family, for coming on to my show. We love you very much, and Focus on the Family. Say hello to Mr. Daly for us, and God bless. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Patty.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always, for the rest of our lives.